right, everyone, I want to welcome you to our IFW committee this morning. And this is going to be a little different than other work sessions that we've had in the past. Kathy and I will share responsibilities as we have done. I will start it out. And I do have a script that they want us to read only because they kind of the situation. And I'm Senator Jim Dill, and I'm the Senate chair of the Fisheries and Wildlife Committee. And they will be jointly presiding over the committee with Representative Netta. And because of the circumstances and public safety concerns around COVID-19, we'll be conducting our work session in a different way than they held. Aside from the chairs, please, of the committee, and the other ones that are here spaced out, that's literally from about 6 feet apart and with masks. The rest of the folks are not going to be here live. They will be tuning in. But before we can do that, we got to establish a quorum to start the meeting. As stated in Joint Rule 306, quorum is 7 members, and a quorum must be present to start a meeting not to take a vote. Quorum is not required to continue. I will call the roll of committee members. If you are present in the committee room, please signify as yay. If you are not in the room but listening in, either signify as nay or, of course, maybe no response at all. So, again, so if you're not here in the committee room, and if you're listening in, you can say nay. Once a quorum is established, we'll give an opportunity for each committee member to go to their designated location. If anybody leaves, everybody sitting here in the room, as I look around, I think we just have one, perhaps, Senator Bikini who's upstairs in his office for the building. And we'll introduce ourselves, and we'll go from there. So the quorum call. I will start, and if you just say yay or nay if you're here. Representative Fay.
Yay.
Representative Demont. Yay. Senator Davis. Representative Stern.
Yay.
Representative Terrio.
Yay.
Representative Landry.
Yay.
Representative Martin. Representative Mason.
Yay.
Representative Neto.
Yeah.
Representative Wallace.
Here.
You're on, are you in the building or are you at home?
I am at home on the
So
Zoom.
then right now you're nay, but thank you. Representative Lucchini.
Thank you, Representative Dill. I'm here. I'm upstairs in my office. There's Senator, Mr. Chairman. So
Sorry about that.
yeah, I'm upstairs. So
Okay, so you're here in the building for voting. All right. Did I get anyone? That's everybody. Okay, so we had how many members present? 12 present. Okay. Okay. Representative Ordway, are you listening, or I don't see you on the list? So. Okay. We have 11 here, 1 absent, and 1 listening remotely. Okay, so I'll start with introductions, and I'll start up in the very back with Representative Fay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Danny Martin, House District 150, located in northern Worcester County. Yes, Paul Davis, I represent Senate District 4, Oliver Scatcherd, Madison, Somerset, Penobscot.
Hi, my name is Paul Stearns. I represent House District 119, a dozen towns in northern and rural Shattuck, Wisconsin.
Representative Ontario, District 79, Albion, Denton, Coastal Denton, Banner, and
Good morning, Representative Scott Landry. I represent District 113, Farmington, New Sharon.
Good morning, Representative Rick Mason, District 56, Elizabeth.
Mark, District 151, question.
Good morning, I'm Representative Catherine Nato. I represent District 78, which is Winslow and a portion of Benson.
And I'm Jim Joe. I'm the Senate Chair. As I mentioned, I represent Senate District number 5, which is Northern Penobscot County, beginning in Beasley, going up 595 and ending in Illinois. And with that, our committee analyst is Matt Sedgwick, and our clerk for today is Charlene Simoneau. And we are ready to go ahead. We have 5 bills that we're working on today. And we will go through each of these 5, and all questions will be addressed to one of the chairs. Remember, this is not a public hearing. That's already happened. This is just a work session. So we need to call on someone that is not a member of the committee if they wish to speak. And we can ask. We are the ones that will be asking questions. So with that, we will begin with my list. I think the first one we have on our list was LR 3280, an act to clarify all terrain vehicle registration requirements and establish regular maintenance of all terrain vehicle trails. And I believe that we're going to have Brian Bronson, is that correct? Give us an update on this one. Is that correct, Ryan? Or is that one of the other ones?
I can, or Tim can. I know Tim is on too, so I guess.
What? We can start with Tim if Tim Peabody's on, and then we'll come back to you, Brian.
Go ahead, you're on right here. Tim.
Tim, you on?
Representative, Tim is just joining us. Hold on one sec.
Okay. Sorry about that. We'll get the bugs worked out.
Should be okay.
Yeah, Senator, could you repeat again?
Yes, it's LR 3280, an act to clarify all terrain vehicle registration requirements and establish regular maintenance of all terrain vehicle trails. Is the one that we want to discuss right now. Do you have that one in front of you, or?
If it helps, Senator Dill, I could just do a very quick overview while people are getting ready. Would that be helpful to folks?
Sure, Jeanette, go ahead.
Sure, I won't be too long. Good morning, everybody. So these 2 bills came out of the ATV task force, as well as some carried over bills from last session. So we do have an LD 2130. That bill for the committee is the one that is it's on white piece of paper, and it's very short. This is the bill that has the AT registration fee and also explains where the AT registration fee goes. Just 2 sections. And the committee had discussed making sure that there was language in this bill specifying that any increase in fees would go to the fund for trail maintenance. The second bill is still in LR. It has had a public hearing, and this is a little more substantive. So this, for the committee members, this is on blue piece of paper, if you have that in front of you. Here we have some more specific information of the recommendations that were given to the task force. Particularly, you'll find those in section 2. where we have an inspection for designated state-approved ATV trails added to the responsibilities of the ATV Recreational Management Fund. There's also an additional antique all-terrain vehicle or ATV added to the categorization of the ATVs. There's also a section, section 5, that talks about being able to use and operate an oversized ATV, any ATV, on your own property without registration, regardless of where the operator is domiciled. Section 6 of this bill deals with a registration fee beginning of July 1st every year, and also deals with the responsibility, which would be a new responsibility, for people who are selling ATVs, agents, to explain orally and in writing the size and weight restrictions for registering that ATV. This bill also in section 7 creates a new category of ATVs, which are called oversized ATVs. So people may not register an oversized ATV if they are wider than 65 inches or weighing more than 2,000 pounds. The last pieces of this information have to do with use of oversized ATVs on your own land. We did, as a committee, spend lots of time on these two bills, and there was a subcommittee that met and created these two bills. If the LR does move forward today, it's very unlikely that it will be referred back to committee. Instead of this LR, or whatever form it takes, will go straight to the floor. So there's a very quick overview for you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Are there any questions from the committee for Jeanette? And if you do, be sure you speak directly into the mic, because as I turn and talk to everybody to my behind me, you can't hear very well. So make sure if you're speaking, you speak directly into the mic. Representative Neto.
So my question is, July 1st every year is when this fee would be in effect. Does that mean the registration fee is a fixed fee? So what means is it from July 1st to June 30th every year? Is that when you register an ATV, or is it any time of the year?
We may delay that question until we have someone from, unless Jeanette knows the answer to that. Maybe
I don't.
someone from IFW that may want to answer that.
I don't know.
You don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry. And I'm not quite sure I got the complete question. I think it had to do with the time of registration. And Senator Dell, it sounded as though you would like to wait to hear from people before we answer that question.
Are there other questions from the committee? Seeing none. Mr. Peabody, would you be so kind as to discuss this with us a little bit, if you would so choose and be kind enough? Tim, you seem to be, yeah, there you go, you're muted.
I cannot hear Representative Neto's questions or your questions. I can hear Jeanette very well.
The question was, go ahead, Representative Neto, repeat your question.
So my question was, is the ATV fee a fixed fee, which means, is it always set on July 1st to June 30th, or can you register an ATV anytime? I know with the boat, it's what? I don't remember. It's something February.
Representative Neto, their ATV registration runs starting July 1st of each year. The only temporary is a non-resident 7-day is by certain dates, but all year-round registrations run from July 1 to June 30th each year.
Okay, and that answers that question. Now, Mr. Peabody, Tim, would you have anything you'd like to say about this particular bill? I know the task force worked quite diligently on it to get it, I think, where it is. Anything you want to add to where we are with that?
Senator Dill, was that directed at me?
Yes, sir.
Again, I'm having a really hard time hearing any of the questions from the committee. I can just an overview of what beyond what Jeanette said, that basically the LR 3280 does pick up the principal pieces that the task force was concerned about and the landowners are concerned about, especially limiting the size of an ATV on a state trail. One of the pieces that was not discussed previously by Jeanette was the grandfathering of ATVs over 65 inches currently registered in the state of Maine. That's part of this bill also. And basically there's somewhere near 300 or so of those vehicles that were registered in the state of Maine that will be grandfathered if this bill moves forward. And one thing the committee did that was different than the task force recommendation was allowed those to be operated on state approved ATV trails. And that's what the committee determined back in March or so before we actually left discussions on this bill. Other than that, all the recommendations in here are recommendations of the task force.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Representative Stearns. Yes, Tim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
My question comes from is your mic on your computer? Yes. Turn your mics off. Everybody turn your mics off on your computer. Tim, now can you hear me?
Yes, much better.
Okay. My question comes from an email that we got from one of the, I think it was a national ATV group just recently. And the issue lays with, let me give you a scenario. I own 100 acres of land. My friend owns 100 acres of land. The way this draft is written, I can go buy an oversized machine. I cannot register it, but I can operate it on my home land. However, I could not go to my friend's land and operate that because there's no way to register it. And I don't specifically own that property. Can you speak to that? Is that something that we should tweak or leave alone in your opinion?
Okay, Representative Stearns, that's correct. The way the law is currently written, you would only be able to ride that oversized ATV on your own property. You don't have to be living on the property, just property that you own or lease, but you would not be able to ride it on your neighbor's property unless it was one of the grandfathered ones.
Other questions? Representative Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tim, I'm going to be supporting this bill simply because of conditions of the trails up in my neck of the woods. For the record, do you recall how much income, additional income, this increase will produce for both IFW and
Yeah, Representative Martin, I believe you're asking for additional income. All of the increase that's in the proposed bill, that entire increase goes to the trail fund. So it goes to Brian Bronson's program at ACF. And I do not recall the exact amount. Well, I mean, you can do some math. We register about 70,000 ATVs. It's a $25 increase, with the entire increase going to the ATV trail program.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, so Tim Reynolds is actually commissioner. So IFW will not be receiving any additional administrative fees because of the LD.
No, we will not be getting an additional administrative fee off this particular bill. We get an administrative fee for each vehicle that's registered. But this entire increase will go into the trail fund.
Thank you.
Are there other questions from the committee members? Representative Netta.
Thank you, Tim. I also would like at this time to welcome our representative, Mr. Ordway, and I wish he would introduce himself, and I do have a question afterwards.
Good morning. I'm Representative Lester Ordway. I represent District 23, which is part of the town of Standish.
Yes, Representative Netta.
So, Tim, I just want to refresh my memory. The grandfathering of the ATVs, are they just for Maine residents only to be grandfathered?
Yes. Maine residents only.
Thank you.
Committee members, any other questions before I move over to Mr. Bronson? If he has any comments on this. Seeing none, Mr. Bronson, do you care to say anything about this particular bill?
This is Brian. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So the one thing we were talking about 5 months or so ago when this bill, when we had the hearing on the LR, in section 9, we basically have said that the oversized machines can operate on the state funded trail system. And as Tim pointed out, the committee, the task force had not gone there. You've modified this slightly, which probably works, but it says that you can use it on this trail system unless it's been limited by the landowner or lessee restrictions. What we would like you to consider is also adding or the state, because the landowners are kind of looking for us to control the use, and there are places where the trails are just too narrow or the landowners don't want the wider machines, and we're willing to, you know, maintain gates, barricades, and signs accordingly, but the state kind of needs to have the authority to do that. And as I read this, as we read it here, you've limited that authority to just the landowner, and some of the landowners have asked us to try to get that so that we can maintain it for them, because their licenses with us basically put us, you know, make us the bad guy, if you will, to regulate that.
Thank you. Other questions? Seeing none. All right. Thank you. Anyone else, committee that you want to hear from, or are we ready to go ahead and discuss this and vote on it? I think we ought to discuss this very last issue. Do we want to add our state to section 9 for them to be able, as pointed out, actually be the bad guy? Then even on private land, it's state they would be willing to say. Any thoughts on that? So I guess the question is, do we want to add that? ought to pass as amended by adding or state in section 9. Is that correct, Representative Martin? Do I have a second? It's been seconded by Danny. Any discussion? Representative Neto.
So what would that do to this? And I'd like the department to weigh in on topics like that.
So you want a representative from the ACF department, correct, Mr. Bronson?
I just want to know what this amendment would do to the bill. So,
Mr. Bronson, could you answer that question?
So I'm having a hard time hearing her, but I think her question is, what does this do to the bill? And if you look at the portion where it says about halfway down under section 9, it says a person operating an ATV, including an oversized ATV, on a designated state-approved trail must adhere to limitations established by the landowner or lessee, and it would just say, or the state. That way, if the state had limitations, because in most cases it's going to be driven by the landowner license or by structures. We have some significant bridges out there that are in fact too narrow to allow these large machines. And the concern from on the insurance and the attorneys and whatever is if we don't have the legal right to limit them, it could force us to close the trail completely just because a few can't safely operate on it. And so we just want to make sure that we have the ability to manage those trails in those areas and restrict the wide machines if they just can't safely go.
Just out of curiosity, do you have any thoughts on what percentage of the trails this may impact? Because I can see if all of a sudden the department says, gee, let's just not let them on state property because we're saying there's a bridge 5 miles up the road that they can't go over. Is that going to eliminate a huge amount of the trails for this handful of oversized vehicles? Do you have any thoughts or information on that?
What I know right now, what we've been doing obviously is managing for 60 inches, and based on current landowner restrictions and limits that we've been kind of dealing with all along prior to now, it limits about 1,500 miles of trail of the 6,000. So in the range of 25%. We are actively working to address that with landowners. And for instance, the trestle in Monticello up there in Aroostook County, which a 65-inch wide machine can fit across, although it's tight. The wider machines can't fit across, but we have worked with the local towns to provide access routes that are open so they can legally get around it. So that's only limiting about a mile of that trail instead of the whole 40 miles. And it's really not limiting it because they just run through town and then back out onto the trail system, and they cross the same river on a road bridge. So that is what we've been actively doing and will continue to actively do. But there are going to be potentially some landowners who say we don't want these wider machines, and so they would be posted against their use, even though they're grandfathered.
Any other questions? Representative Danny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question to IFW. Since IFW does the enforcement in regards to snowmobiles and ATVs, Tim or Commissioner, do you have any issues or concerns with the proposed amendment as suggested by Brian?
I believe, Representative Martin, you asked the question if we have any exception to the proposed amendment, and no, we do not. I think it would be necessary to implement that portion of the law.
Thank you.
Are there other questions from the committee? Further discussion? Representative Terrio.
Those wide ATVs are still able to ride on the lakes without being registered.
Is that correct, Mr. Peabody? Did you get a question?
I did not hear the question.
I believe the question was those wide ATVs can ride on lakes without being registered. Is that correct? Or did you just make a change?
I believe, excuse me, I think I was muted. The way the law is currently written, the wider ATVs over 65 inches would only be allowed on the person's own property, owned or leased property.
So they would not be allowed to operate on a lake.
That's
lakes.
That's correct.
Would not.
Would not.
Did not. Right.
Are there other questions? Representative Ordway.
That was, I think we have to address that. I could drive my pickup truck out on the lake, but I can't drive an oversized ATV. That's just, sounds like dusted.
And just to clarify that the grandfathered machines, the ones that are currently registered that would be grandfathered under this bill would be allowed. It's the new purchases that would not be allowed to be registered that would be prohibited.
So did you hear that answer, Representative Ordway? It's the grandfathered ones are allowed on the lakes, but new ones are not. It's still just on your own property. Other questions? Representative Theriot.
I guess my question is, why are we doing that? Like you just said, if you can drive a pickup truck on the lake, why can't we drive? I'm confused.
Well, I don't know what their answer is, but certainly a pickup truck is a registered vehicle, and the idea was to try to get less of these large ones, I think, registered in the state of Maine for use on trails. But I do hear what you're saying. If I can get it to the lake, why can't I run it on a frozen lake? Representative Stearns. Yes, I think that falls back a little bit the email that I alluded to. If I can drum that up, I think everybody received it. But it's the same type situation. In a similar way, a person can purchase a new, larger vehicle. They can ride it on their own land. My land happens to be lakefront property. So I can ride it on my property, but I can't take it out on the ice. However, if I had a jitterbug, an unregistered truck on that property, I don't think I'd have any trouble going out on the ice with that. There's any particular rule on driving a truck on the ice. So I'm wondering if we shouldn't allow those new, larger, oversized machines to be registered, but with restrictions. In other words, if we, no, that's the way New Hampshire. The registration is different from the restrictions where you can ride. Every machine needs to be registered if you take it off your own land. But I can't vote for this if a person can drive a pickup truck out of the ice and you happen to own a brand new oversized vehicle and you can't drive that on Moosehead Lake. I think we'll get laughed out of the arena. Other questions, discussion, thoughts? Representative Neto.
So I think my question is to the committee and the IFW department. How would you why would you buy an oversized ATV? Why would you buy an oversized ATV if the only place that you're going to be able to use it is on the lake? And how many people would on your land or on the lake? So, I mean, how many people would actually buy one of those oversized vehicles to just limit it to that? And what would your solution be? You don't like it, I'm hearing, but what's the solution to that? Thank you.
Mr. Peabody, can you unmute yourself and respond to that?
Yeah, you repeat the question, Representative Netter? We're having a
No,
really
that's the
hard time
problem.
here.
Her question was basically why would anybody bother to buy a new vehicle if they're so restricted at the moment that they can really only use it on their own land. They can't even use it on the lake, a new vehicle. So
Yeah.
why do we, what is the problem, I guess, is what's being asked, of allowing these unregistered ATVs to be used on a lake? What does that do from your end, which I guess is enforcement? How does that complicate?
Okay, again, the 65-inch restriction was negotiated as part of the task force deliberations. A lot of landowners wanted, they had policies for 60 inches, and through negotiations with the task force agreed on that 65 inches was what we came up with. One of the reasons for that was that it encompassed most of the recreational vehicles that were registered. Out of 72,000 vehicles that were registered, there were only 300 of them. And basically the landowners, they don't want them on the landscape. That was what the negotiation was, things over 65 inches, and that was a compromise. So then it moves forward to how do you enforce it and what is reasonable. And it was very important to the task force that these vehicles were grandfathered, the ones that were currently registered. So the grandfathered ones would be allowed to ride on the lakes and ponds and the trails through this committee's amendment. So that's kind of the landscape. So the question is, if you register ATVs over 65 inches, and then the owners of those feel that they should be allowed to pretty much go on state trails and anywhere they want to go. And from an enforcement standpoint, creating a situation allowing those vehicles to ride on the lakes if there's accidents or something that you're still required to enforce with no compensation back to the state if they cause problems. And if they ride off the lake on private land without permission, or they can be a problem. So it quickly turned into an enforcement issue by allowing those vehicles onto a body of water.
Wouldn't the enforcement therefore come as soon as that person drove off the lake onto someone else's private property? Then your department could actually enforce that, and therefore there would be a fine of, yes, operating an unlicensed or unregistered vehicle on private property where it's not supposed to be, whatever the citation would be. So I think what people are concerned about here is if you buy this nice new vehicle, why can't you put it on a frozen body of water? And I guess I would ask the question because Representative Stern said if you had an old pickup truck that wasn't registered and you drove it out on the ice from your property, that's okay. Even though it's an unregistered vehicle, it's an old vehicle, you're driving around. And I don't know the answer if that's legal or not. But that was what I think, at least, it was being compared to. So the question still becomes, is there a problem with allowing these newly registered 65 and over whatever the other oversized restrictions were, allowing them on a frozen body of water. Comments from the committee? Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are two components to this bill. Obviously, the size limit and the fee increase. What we're hearing from some committee members that are present is that some concern or opposition to the size and the inability for oversized ATVs to go on the lake. Maybe we could discuss some of that concern. I mean, I'd hate for this bill to go down the tube because of a concern that if we were to break it, potentially one o'clock, if that could be resolved. But the fee increase is important for those of you that are familiar with the lack of funding the ATV trail state life.
I believe the fee increase is the next bill down, 2130. We separated the fees out last time.
That's right. Yeah,
yeah, I think we separated the fees out into a separate bill purposely to make sure that this bill stood alone. We thought that it actually kind of canceled passing. And but I hear what you're saying here. Do we want to make this another exception? And I would go back to Representative John Matt, not to put him on the spot, but he was the one who amended the bill to add the state in there. Do you have any interest in amending it further?
Standing wrong. People have changed now. And the only concern I have is allowing what becomes the enforcement problem. That's the issue.
Let's just take a representative that wants to take a 5-minute break. I think there's maybe some technical difficulties here, so then we'll get right back to this discussion.
Test 1, 2, 3. Sorry, we're having technical difficulties at the moment. Hopefully it won't be much longer.
Morning. We're having a few audio difficulties. It'll be a couple more minutes.
That's one, two.
Test 1, 2.
All right, it appears that hopefully our technical problems have been fixed and we can continue. And we left off with Representative Terrio.
Thank you, Senator. Oh boy. All right, so we do not want to change the registration at all. I mean, we support this bill 100%, but we just want to make sure that people from Maine that go ice fishing, if they have a wide four-wheeler, can do it. That's all I care about. I don't want to change anything of the registration. I just, you know, you can take a pickup on the lake and you have one of these four-wheelers and you bought a new one, I don't care if it's new, old, you can take it ice fishing, period. That's all. So I don't know how the language wants to read for that, but, you know, basically that's it. So if they go off the lake, now you have a violation, like you said. You know, you can't ride them on the trails, and they've got to know that. And that's with the education part that we have to put out there. I think it's pretty common sense. I really don't want to not have Maine people not be able to go ice fishing if they have one of these things.
Okay. Any other comments before I go back? Representative Danny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So according to the previous speaker's comments, what he is suggesting is that we would add frozen bodies of water to private land. And is that just for residents or for residents and non-residents? Just for residents. So I'd be prepared, Mr. Chair, to withdraw my second if
I withdraw the motion.
Okay, would you like to make another motion?
Now move ought to pass as amended by adding frozen private land and frozen body of water
And state.
for Maine resident only.
And you got to put state back in there because you withdrew your motion, the amendment in number 9.
Yep.
So you've made two different, you've made two changes to this. You added state and you added frozen bodies of water. Is that correct, Representative Martin?
Correct.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Seconded
by Senator Davis. Discussion, Senator Davis.
I'm wondering why we want just Maine residents. I remember talking to a fellow at the Piscataquis Fair one year that owned 400 acres of land in Garland. He let everybody hunt it, but he couldn't. He couldn't hunt it on open day, and he was very upset over it. He went talk. So if a non-resident owns 400 acres of land bordering a lake, they can't go on the lake, if I understand this correctly. Am I correct in my understanding?
If they have a new registration, if they have an older grandfathered vehicle, they will be able to.
I guess my further question would be, why are we excluding non-residents? That's my question. I mean, this fellow, he said he come up to his camp on that Saturday and somebody dragged a deer down his driveway, but he couldn't go hunting. That's my point.
Is there further discussion? Questions on this? Representative Neto.
Can we get the department to weigh in on this, please?
Mr. Peabody, you still there? I see you, but I can't hear you.
Yes, Senator Dill. I'm going to put Colonel Scott on just to speak on the enforcement issue that's and some of the concerns that they may have regarding this discussion.
Good morning. A couple comments I'll make. One is it's difficult to compare these wide ATVs to motor vehicles because they're completely it's apples and oranges, and the vehicles and ATVs are are regulated in completely different ways. Really, ATVs are more heavily regulated because that same unregistered motor vehicle you're talking about operating on the ice, there's no restriction to operating that on private land. You could go across your neighbor's land as long as you didn't cause any damage. You could go across a farmer's field. You could go on crop or pasture land. You can't do that with an ATV because they are regulated. So they're not allowed to without permission. So to compare the two, they're regulated differently. As far as operating on frozen bodies of water, if the wide or the oversized ATVs, just something to think about, are permitted to operate on frozen bodies of water. So a camp owner could go from his own land onto the frozen body of water. At the point that that ATV is on the frozen body of water, it's completely unregulated. By definition, it's an ATV and it is not required to be registered and it's out on the lake. A person coming up the lake on a quad, a standard four-wheeler that's only 60 inches wide, he is required to be registered. So he obviously he's paid his fees and he has access to go other places, but the two of them sitting next to each other, one is required to be registered, one isn't. So that oversized ATV, which is unregistered on a frozen body of water, is our least regulated vehicle, if you will. Now those two vehicles are headed up the lake together and there's a guy at a camp cooking hot dogs and he waves you up. Come up here and you guys come up and have a hot dog with me. I want you to come onto my property. He's a private landowner. The undersized ATV can go up there because he's up there with permission. The oversized ATV cannot. So now it becomes the most regulated vehicle that we have. So those are the complex enforcement issues that come along with this. And we just have to consider what were the objectives of the task force and what are the objectives of keeping things at least somewhat simple. I understand people's concerns about they ought to be able to ride those vehicles on frozen bodies of water, but they're basically completely unregulated at that point and unregistered, whereas other ATVs aren't. But yet, even with permission from a landowner, they can't operate on private land. So that vehicle would be subject to two extreme enforcement interpretations, whether it's on a frozen body of water or someplace else in the state.
Are there other questions for the department?
I guess the only other clarification is, as far as the motion amendment, I heard, in addition to frozen body of water, something about private land. So I think we would need to clarify too what exactly the amendment is. I'm not sure where the private land piece came from. That just as a clarification, the way that we heard that here.
I believe what they were saying is that the way the bill is right now, that a new registration of an oversized vehicle is to be used on your own private property. And I think the addition was and frozen bodies of water. I believe that's what the addition was, just and the frozen body of water.
Okay, we just were clarifying that it wasn't all private land.
No,
well.
I don't believe it was just, no. Representative Martin saying, no, that is correct, that he was just talking about, the way it was, that it's not registered, you use it on your own private land, and you could use it on frozen bodies of water.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies that, yeah.
Other questions, thoughts from the committee? Senator Davis, are you interested in, and are anybody else on the committee interested in changing it to just any oversized, therefore giving out-of-state folks? I see mostly nods, no. It's not a hill to die on.
Somehow this isn't.
All right, I guess with that, If there's no further discussion, we are ready to, did you want to say something, Representative Neno?
We need to hold a vote. After we vote, we need to have just Faye come up from the first floor.
Right.
She went down.
She went down, and I believe Senator,
No, wait, she's
she's back. I believe Senator Lucchini's upstairs too, but Darlene's got to come up here to do the roll call anyway. So she's supposed to be listening. She's down in taxation, no, transportation. So she will come up and do the roll call here in a minute. So we'll just kind of hang tight while everybody's running. Representative Fay.
Thank you, Senator Dill. I couldn't get back into this. I couldn't get out of the Zoom meeting and then get back into the Zoom meeting. I'm going to go back downstairs now, but I wanted to just let you know that if you could let me back into the meeting after I go downstairs, because I'm going to have to leave because it won't follow me. It's
Okay.
technology.
So when you get downstairs, I'll be looking for you then.
Thank you.
Just on the amendment? All right, so well, before you leave, we're gonna take first we're gonna just take a voice vote on the amendment, then we'll do a roll call on the bill. So before you leave, Jessica, too, you may as well do your roll call when Darlene gets here. So all in favor of the amendment? It's unanimous. So it's unanimous on the amendment, and as soon as Darlene gets here, we'll do the roll call on the bill as amended. Yeah.
Why do we need a roll call?
Well, we were just going to do roll calls, but it seems to be unanimous again. So again, before you leave, Representative Fay, we'll just do a hand vote. All in favor? So end of story. It's unanimous. We'll move on. Makes it quicker. All right, with that, if you want to bang the gavel, that work session is over. And we'll start a work session we'll skip down to LD 2130, which is a bill, an act to fund Maine's recreational trails, which is basically the second half of this bill. If you all remember, this was part of the original bill, and we took this part out because this is strictly registration. While you're here, Darlene, it was unanimous anyway, so we didn't bother to do a roll call. We just did show of hands. Thank you. All right, so LD 2130, an act to fund Maine's recreational trails. Yes.
I move ought to pass as amended and want to speak just briefly about, I was surprised by the action of people in my area who very supportive as long as the money goes to the recreational trail.
Okay, it's been moved, ought to pass, and then spoke to his motion. Is there a second? It's been seconded. Discussion. Yes, Senator Davis, sorry.
I talked to two people this morning, a guide in Greenville and a chair of a selectmen's board, and I too was surprised at the support that there is for this.
And I believe, do we want to hear from Mr. Bronson on this at all, just to make sure we're all set? All set? Everybody all set? Further
We're all
discussion,
good.
Representative Terrio.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% for this. The only concern I have is do we have enough support with the bodies to make sure it passes? Failure of this is terrible because we really, really need to have this. Right. So I just want to make sure everybody's talked to all of the other people in these buildings, so make sure that we're all on board with that. Because if we put this out here and it fails because of all of this crazy COVID and the times, and everybody says nobody's got any money, and I can hear all the speeches now, but they really, really need this. And that, if they're not involved with ATVs enough to know what we really need in this state, they might think they're doing something good, but they're really hurting the ATVers. So I'm just concerned. I just want to throw that out there, and because we need this, but can we get the support to make it happen? That's where I'm at.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative John Martin.
Yeah, I would suggest that we get hold of the ATV organization to call all the clubs or send them a memo to talk to the legislators. And before.
Remember to talk into your
Middle of
mic.
next month.
Would you repeat that, Representative Martin, into your mic, please? Would you repeat that again into your mic? We couldn't hear. Repeat it. Into the mic. We'll move on. Representative Danny Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I share the concern that Representative Terrio has, but understand that I think there's consensus here, and if it comes out as unanimous committee report, at least on the House floor, it'll be on the consent calendar, and that's a good thing. I sponsored the original bill last session in regards to this here at the request of ATV Maine. ATV Maine, and I know all of my clubs up north are very supportive of this bill here. So I think it's important that we get a unanimous vote out of this committee, and I'm sure that Senator Davis and Senator Dill in the Senate can carry the water on this. And I don't see any concern with not having this come to fruition. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Mason.
Yes, I just made a phone call during that last break to my ATV master in Lisbon, and they were actually having a club meeting when I called. And they are 100% behind this as long as it all goes to the trails.
If Representative Fay and Senator Lucchini are listening, would you please come down? We'll be voting here in a couple minutes. Representative Ordway.
Yeah, I think that when putting this out to the public, I think that we have to stress that it goes to the trails, and that we have, with proper trails, we have an opportunity to make a fiscal impact or an economic impact equal to what we do with snowmobiles in this state. Snowmobiles bring in $600 million, and I think we have this with proper trails, we have a good opportunity. One just has to look at what's going on over in northern New Hampshire. It's a huge economic impact on that area of their state. And we have an opportunity to do that here with this bill.
Representative Landry.
My clubs in Western Maine are in full support as long as it goes to the trail fund.
Senator Davis.
Yes, during our break, we had a conversation with Representative Madden on how the money can stay in the trail fund. It won't be taken out. And I'd like to have, if he will, explain all that to us, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, obviously we're doing this and it's going to be effective by 2/3 vote. Anyone who tries to take money out of it will have to do it by 2/3. And that would be a difficult stage for them. And I think obviously future, they could try to move it a couple of years forward and do it effective that way to get around that. But I think that the ATV organization would be able to stop.
Any other discussion? Yes, Representative Terrio.
Yeah, Representative Mason and I actually went to a meeting. There were 5 clubs that were there, and they all against it when we started. And after we got done explaining to it, every single one of them went in favor of it. So the initial response to it was no, and that's what I'm worried about. You know, everybody was like, "Oh no, we can't do this," and until you have that explanation, we got them all on board, all 5 clubs, and they were 100% on board. But the initial reaction was no, and that's what I'm just throwing that out there. They were adamant. Actually, they were hollering at us. It was quite steamy there for a few minutes, but we did get them turned around. And actually, Deputy Commissioner Tim Peabody was there, and he took most of the brunt. We threw him under the bus as much as we could, but he handled it very, very well. But yeah, no, so the initial, reaction was negative. So just be prepared. It takes an explanation. And I'm like I say, we're all on board, but I don't know, can we make that leap? Get everybody to understand it. I'm hoping.
Are there other comments? Seeing none, Jessica went up to the third floor lounge. I have not seen her try to get back on other than via chat, but hopefully she'll come on down to vote. Senator Lucchini's in the back. We can take, do you see her coming there, Darlene? No, she just chatted to us and said she was on the third floor lounge. All right. Yeah, go check, please. Okay. Representative Martin. I mean Mason. Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The ones that went up to the Thorndike Trailblazers ATV Club, we all got a thank you letter. I mean, like Tim said, it's very contentious when we got there. I was glad I was sitting beside Warden Shabbat because he had his firearm on him, but it was a little rough at start. But at the end, they filed by us and shook our hands for the information. And I got a thank you card here, and it says, on behalf of the Thorndike Trailblazers ATV Club, we would like to say thank you. You for giving us your Saturday evening to come speak to us on the changes coming to our sport. Your time was much appreciated, and questions were answered. Our questions were answered. There was 6 Central Maine clubs represented Saturday night. There was 6 clubs there. The clubhouse was full. And by the time we got done, they were very happy.
Good. Any last comments before we vote? We'll just do a show of hands again. It seems like it's in good shape. All in favor? None opposed? None abstentions. So it's unanimous. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to LD 2001, an act to create an administrative review process for hunting and fishing violations. Let's see if we can just find it. Go ahead. Who just spoke?
Would you like?
Yep. Jeanette?
Okay, you'd like me to go ahead and just give you a brief overview? So this, does everybody have it? It's actually orange colored. So as things stand currently, the commissioner can revoke or suspend permits and licenses for multiple reasons. And most of these provisions apply to people who already been convicted of violations. And because I'm getting a feedback, I'll make this very short. Essentially, what the bill will do is establish that if the commissioner reasonably believes a person has killed, wounded, or recklessly endangered the safety of another human being while hunting, the commissioner can take administrative remedies. Those remedies include suspension of license and revocation of licenses. They do not include, as a previous draft had included, lifetime revocation. I can go further into it, but it's not
We'll see if there's any questions from the committee, and then we'll go to the department. Any questions for Jeanette? Seeing none. Tim, are you there?
Yes, Senator. Essentially, what's being proposed here is what we had agreed to with Troy Ripley, who brought this forward to us. And it sets out the ability to administratively for the commissioner to take the license and for a year on the first offense, again, and also require an ethics course. Again, we don't feel that this is going to be used very often, but it's a very powerful message to our landowners again, and to hunters that we don't want them on private land when they're not supposed to be there.
Any concerns? You seem to be okay with where we left it and where we are now?
Yes.
Are there any questions from the committee for the department? Seeing none, I'm ready for motion.
Move ought to pass as amended.
Representative Martin moved ought to pass. Is there a second? Representative Terrio. Any further discussion? Seeing none, if Senator Lucchini and Representative Fay would come on down, and Darlene come up, we'll do a quick vote. This is where Representative Stearns will do his song and dance to fill in the dead air time. Okay, Darlene, you listening? And Representative Fay, yep, there we go. Okay, we have a motion of ought to pass on LD, what's that, 2001. John Martin made Representative Martin made the motion, Representative Terrio seconded it. And we just do another show of hands. All in favor? None opposed. Thank you. All right, I'll close the work session on this and turn it over to Representative Neto. What's that? Okay, we'll move on to LD 1939, an act to promote outdoor recreational opportunities for Maine students. And this was from Representative Dunphy. This is the one about guides and college groups and other groups like that. So Jeanette, if you want to give us a quick overview.
Sure, and hopefully I won't have feedback here. I'll make it short. Yellow, this group was put together as a result of work between the department and several other interested parties, private schools and public schools both. They worked together and brought it to the committee for its approval. It's to create a task force to discuss the issue of using guides and potentially creating a new form of guide license or camp leader license in the future for particular kinds of trips.
Okay, any questions for Jeanette? Seeing none. The department, Tim, you still there? I see you. So any comments on this one? I think you had a group working on this one also, if I remember correctly.
That's correct, Senator. We actually was curious whether we needed the bill or not, but determined yesterday that the exception, section 1 of the bill, which has the exception for schools that are operating these types of trips while we're doing the task force work, would be exempt from any enforcement action. We determined that it would be a good thing to pass the bill just for that exception pieces, that they wouldn't have to worry about any enforcement situation. We had actually already, we were working with the groups and we've been communicating with Representative Dunphy that we were going to do the work if the committee had not come back, just so we'd be prepared for next session. But we do feel the bill would be, should be considered just from section 1 with the exemption from enforcement for the groups working if they go back to school this fall.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Quick question from Representative John Martin.
Going to the representation and it doesn't seem to indicate who's going to be doing the appointments. It says who they'll be. But you see any?
Go ahead, Jeanette. What was you going to say?
I can address that shortly. The end of each sentence says who will be appointed. Or it should anyway. My apologies if it doesn't. But
Jeanette, you're fading in and out. I wouldn't be able to, I didn't understand what you said. So what were you saying on that one?
So section A has designations at the end of each sentence. And then the other sections, D, are all within the Department of IFW.
Okay. All right, thank you. John Martin, again, what was your question? Who's appointing them to which one? The task force? Was that your question? Who's appointing them to the task force? If you look under section 2, number 2, it says membership. The Commissioner of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife shall invite the following, and then it lists the group. Was that your question? John Martin?
Yeah. But if you go to section 1, A1, Representative Public says one shall be from the Oregon main system designated by the Chancellor. Who's selecting the other one?
I know it's hard to hear me. Number 2, private nonprofit post-secondary educational in the state designated by Maine independent colleges. Number 3, designated by Commissioner of Education.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at A1.
The Chancellor will.
So the Chancellor will pick the one that is as well from the other institutions?
It is worded a little differently than some other bills. Here, the IFW is going to invite people who have been designated.
Yeah, I think it'd be worked out, but so we just have to tell the Chancellor which goes where to get it, I guess.
Right.
Okay, no problem.
All right, other questions, concerns?
Move on to pass as amended.
Representative Stearns.
Yeah, I would point out that just a change in the grammar or the wording of number one, so
Yeah.
that if it were to say that he'll appoint two, and then one, including one from the University of Maine system, that would fix it. So it would be clear that the chancellor
Right.
appoints two, and
Yeah.
one of them has to be from the University of Maine.
Okay, so Jeanette, you got that change?
Ought to pass as amended.
It's been moved by John Martin, ought to pass as amended. Is there a second? Representative Danny Martin seconded it. Any further discussion? Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Deputy Commissioner Tim, the proposed motion is as amended, and I just want to make sure that clarified the concern that I think you suggested a few minutes ago. You all set with this?
Yeah, we're also proposed amendment.
All right.
Okay. Everybody good? Senator Lucchini's in the back. Is Senator, I see Senator, and Representative Fay is over here, so we're good to go again. So, all in favor? None opposed. And the last one on our agenda today is LD 118, an act to give the Commissioner of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife rulemaking authority to establish a bear season framework and bag limits. So, Jeanette, you want to give us a quick where we are on that?
Sure. Very quickly, this bill initially carried over. We've had public sessions and several work sessions about this bill. I do understand that the department has been working with state about this bear bill, and I understand that they have some further considerations for the committee to discuss today.
Okay. If the department wants to weigh in, Tim? Gotta unmute, Tim. There you go.
Yeah, I believe Nate Webb, Wildlife Director, is on the meeting, and he'll be presenting an update.
Okay, that's right. I remember that. Nate, you there?
I am. Good morning, everyone. Nate Webb, Wildlife Director with the department. So we do have a very minor suggestion for the committee to consider. In section 7 of the amended version of the bill, we have identified some additional language to help clarify the bag limit, which I believe the committee members would recall. This proposal or this amendment would set a maximum of 2, no more than 1 by trapping, and we have some minor language adjustments to section 7 that we've shared with Jeanette that we would believe would help clarify that is indeed the case. Bag limit of 2, no more than 1 by trapping. But other than that, we're very comfortable with the amended version of the bill.
Any questions for Nate from the committee? Representative John Martin.
For the department, there is right now a notice for a public hearing, right? On the issue of bear.
So the department has been petitioned, received a valid petition to undertake rulemaking related to bear baiting or bear feeding. Again, that's through the department rulemaking process, and that's separate from this bill, and it speaks to the parameters around bear baiting or feeding. But again, that's a rulemaking proposal. The public comment period is currently open on that proposal.
Is there going to be a public hearing on it, or?
There was a public hearing Wednesday afternoon, July 8th.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the committee?
Move on to pass as amended.
Okay, is there a second? Representative Ordway seconded it. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Is Jessica in the back too? Yep, I see her. All right. All in favor? None opposed. Thank you all. Is there anything else to come before us?
Senator Dill, may I ask one question?
Yes.
I just need to know what those revisions were from Nathan Webb, and also what the next steps may be for the committee to move forward with these bills.
Well, all the other ones have been passed. I don't know that this was a major change from the department, so I'm not sure that any of them have to come back to us, or we have to come back together because we've passed them all unanimously. I think they can just move forward. Yeah, just moving forward.
Great.
Any other questions? Seeing none. I guess we are adjourned. Thank you all.